Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined by my good friend, Chris Early, otherwise known as Duke. How are you today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we are all doing great, I think, because as of this week, Miami Dolphins football is just a few days away. And also, everybody, happy Labor Day, because as you are listening to this, it is in fact Labor Day. So we've got a lot of stuff that we can talk about. We're probably going to go into a mishmash of a whole bunch of different stuff, just because until we start seeing things like what's going to be the practice plan, what's going to be things like that, we're going to be all over the board. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you want us to talk about throughout the week? So for now, we're just going to go ahead and talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. We're probably going to talk about surprise roster cuts as Duke sees them, surprise roster ads. Oh, and Alec Ingold, of all people, recently just got let's just say, an impressive extension considering his position, a fullback. So we'll also have a reaction to that. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at You Break Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to You Break Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, which is back. Are we happy about that? The NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares over there, such as the free Dak Prescott square, which is live. You can still take advantage of it. All he has to do is throw for 1 yard and you win on that square. They also give you special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you 100 of their dollars for you to play with, and get started winning today. All right, Duke. So let's go ahead and just dive right in here. So that's the first thing we'll talk about. I want to talk about the Alec Ingold extension, because it just seems to me that of all the players that the Dolphins could have extended, obviously I'm still a little salty about the whole Christian Wilkins situation. I felt like that if really all they're haggling over is guaranteed money, I'd give Christian Wilkins all of the guaranteed money as far as I'm concerned. He's been an Iron Man on that defense. But I digress. If we're talking about guys getting extensions, I think one of the people that I honestly had no idea was coming would have been Alec Ingold. I think my friend Jason Sarney over on Twitter kind of had rumblings about something brewing. I don't know if he knew it was actually Ingold, but he was saying somebody was going to get a small extension, quote unquote. I guess in the realm of the NFL at large, Ingold's extension isn't huge just by pure monetary value, but as far as being a fullback is concerned, he is now the highest paid fullback in NFL history. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, I will have to eat a little bit of crow because I had mentioned on Pulse of Fins Nation a couple weeks back that his contract was, if somebody stepped up, that he was the guy that they could possibly save some money on. And obviously, they did not feel that way. So I did not expect it to happen. It was just an idea. So, yeah, my bad on that. I think overall, when you look at the numbers, it's really not that bad of a deal. And, I mean, they plan to use him, and possibly I'm going to say they're going to get a lot more usage out of him. Now, I think last year he averaged somewhere about 25 snaps a game. I think you'll see that increase. And I think when you factor in how they use him, it's probably one reason why the tight end room is so light. They're probably going to use him in the passing game, much like they would use the tight ends, which is just basically an underneath check down option. I don't think he's going to be necessarily a big receiving weapon. But I think you're going to see more usage out of him now, and they wanted him to be a part of that. So
I just find it so interesting, though. Like, I understand that he's important to the offense, or at least we perceive him to be important to this offense. But it's not like Alec Ingold is on the field every single snap. It's like you would want Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and all those wide receivers out there as often as you can possibly have them. So if you're going to go ahead and give Alec Ingold this extension, again, it's an average annual salary of 4 million, and I'm not going to round it up because there's so many numbers in there that it's not even funny. But basically, an annual average salary of 4 million, and he's going to have a cap hit of $3,730,000. I don't know. I don't remember what his previous contract was. It might have been very similar because the previous one that he signed back in 2022 was a 2-year, $6.5 million contract. So I guess in all honesty, he was probably going to be around the same amount for a cap hit. So I guess this is just their way of saying if you can reach these incentives, because there are incentives on this contract. I don't think we know what they are, which is a little. I'm trying to figure out what incentives could you give a fullback. I can't imagine it's going to be rushing yards. I can't imagine that it's going to be receiving yards. So what exactly is Alec Ingold getting incentivized to do? Be healthy?
it's probably going to be like snap count incentives, like if you play so many percentage of the snaps, and possibly some production in there. But again, I think they're going to use him a little more than what they did last year, and I think a positive thing um, is thinking about it is we saw this in the preseason with a dedication to the running game. Um, so I think we're going to see a lot more two back sets. And forgive me, I don't know if that's 12 personnel, 21 personnel. That escapes my mind right now. But either way, I think we're going to see him a lot on the field as a lead blocker. And because he is an athletic fullback, they can use him as a pass catching weapon. So it doesn't necessarily um, give away your game plan, a la Mike Gesicki when he was in the game. But I think they're going to use him a lot more of that. And so, I mean, that's what we all want to see, right? It's more of a dedication to the running game, and he's going to help with that. His cap number for this season is 3.75 million, so it's not really a huge increase. I would think cap number wise, based on what he's already making.
Yeah, the cap number is a minor change at best, so I'm not really worried about the fact that we gave him that money. It's just I understand now that the Dolphins are trying to put an increased emphasis on the running game, and I'm happy about that. Don't get me wrong, but it feels weird to me because they've been flirting with all these running backs, right? Jonathan Taylor, they were flirting with Josh Jacobs, they were flirting with Saquon Barkley allegedly, they were rumored to be interested in Derrick Henry, and they sent an offer to Dalvin Cook, a low offer, but still an offer nonetheless. So all this emphasis on the run game, and then you go out of your way to extend Alec Ingold. I can't imagine that the Dolphins extending Ingold is almost like there are probably going to be people out there who are looking at this as an insurance policy to say, well, we couldn't get our superstar running back at our price, so we're just going to go ahead and extend Ingold to maximize the ability of our other running backs to get the job done. I can't imagine that that's what this is, and I feel like it's going to be framed that way by some people.
Well, I mean, that would be silly. I mean, I don't think what they've done with Alec Ingold has in any way affected the cap hit this season or a major impact on anything next year. So, what they would have done outside of that, I mean, the reports were that they were willing to give Jonathan Taylor what he was asking for contract wise. And if that's true, I mean, is that something that is this Alec Ingold contract one of those things like, well, we couldn't get Jonathan Taylor at 16 million a year or whatever he wanted, so we're going to sign Alec Ingold for 4 million a year? No, I mean, it's not the same thing. So I think it was something in the works that they were going to. I think they were just kind of putting it on the back burner a little bit, and they didn't have anything else to do, so why not go for it? I mean, we saw what happened with Zach Sealer. As soon as the Christian Wilkins talks kind of broke off, they extended him immediately. So I think they have some of these other guys on the roster that they want to see extended, and they've kind of prioritized who they're going to work with. And I think we'll see some more as the season moves forward, depending on the agents. I know some of them don't want to discuss contract stuff in the middle of the season, but I think we might see some guys, particularly maybe a couple of lower tier or guys to create a little more cap room. So let's say we get halfway through the season and David Long is playing very well. You could probably offer him an extension and lower his cap hit for 2024 to create a little more space. So that's an option. I think Robert Hunt's probably the next big name to fall. I would expect that they are looking at getting him an extension. I think today that Terrence Steele, the right tackle for the Cowboys, who was, I know that you guys in previous shows, and I know Alf and the 3 yards per carry guys have discussed trading for him, and he signed a 5-year up to $91 million with incentives.
Was that what I thought? I saw $86 million.
I think it's 86 with up to 91 with incentives. So it's somewhere in that range. But I don't think Robert Hunt being a guard is going to get that kind of money, but you can figure he's going to be in the neighborhood of, I think Spotrac has him at 8 to 10 million a year. You can probably add a couple to 3 million on there for inflation. So he's probably a 12 to 13 million dollar a year guard, unless he goes out and has a monster season, in which case that price might go up a little bit. But that's the guy I think that they want to sign next. He is a draft pick, a hit for the team, and I think you reward guys like that. So I think we'll see these. But yeah, I mean, back to your point, I don't think anyone could or should frame this as, oh, we didn't get our running back that we wanted, so now we're just going to start we extended our fullback. I think it was in the works. They just put it on the back burner until the bigger, more pressing options were off the table.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough assessment. But since I have you here, and since we're talking about this, the Christian Wilkins situation for me is still a hot button topic for me, Duke. And I know that you're saying, well, the Dolphins are going to probably reward Robert Hunt as a hit next, but I feel like if there's anybody who should be a priority, and I'm going to hang on to this until I get a result out of this, there's nobody on this team who is more deserving of getting his money than Christian Wilkins. And it still baffles me that if the reports are true, it's not like at first we thought, oh, it's the average annual salary. Christian Wilkins wants to be paid more per year than Quinnen Williams. But then there's another report out there that says, oh, no, it's actually the amount of guaranteed money that Christian Wilkins is getting. Guaranteed money, I understand, is a sticking point with a lot of players. I understand that the guaranteed money is the money that you're going to get from the team, regardless of what happens to you. If you end up deciding that you're going to take the rest of the 3 years off that you're on contract, you're going to get that money regardless, because once you signed that deal that says, we're going to pay you this regardless of what happens at this point. So I understand that that's a sticking point for players. But of all the players that the Dolphins could haggle over guaranteed money over, it feels like the one they should be the least concerned about is Christian Wilkins. He has never missed a game that I can remember. He is the hardest worker on that defense as far as I'm concerned. He is constantly wreaking havoc. The only thing that he doesn't do, and I keep harping on this, and people keep telling me that I'm wrong, and I don't know, maybe you feel the same way. You'll tell me in a second. But I feel like the only thing he doesn't do is get the amount of sacks that the rest of his constituents who have already gotten paid get. But I would like to once again mention, I mentioned this in the previous show, all of these guys who ended up getting paid, like aside from Quinnen Williams, like guys like Darren Payne, Dexter Lawrence, all these guys, they had very similar sack numbers to Wilkins up until 2022 when they suddenly got way more sacks than usual. So they just had 1 year where they got a bunch of sacks and suddenly they're worth a massive payday, but because Wilkins only got 30 more tackles than every other defensive tackle in the NFL. So that's What the heck, man? I don't get it. If sacks are the only thing that matter, then Wilkins can go ahead and just take plays off if he doesn't get to the quarterback. Apparently, that's all that matters. So I'll let you give your thoughts.
Well, I mean, the sack numbers are what gets guys paid. And in thinking of this, the first contract or the first person that came to my mind was Olivier Vernon. And so he had in Miami, he had 1 year of double digit sacks. He generated a ton of pressure, but he never did necessarily finish the sacks. And that was opposite of Cameron Wake. So he had um, he had opportunities, so it just never happened. And then he goes to the Giants and signs a 5-year, $85 million deal. And so, it's just one of those things that for what Christian Wilkins has done, you expect a lower contract number because the guys who have been paid before him are better in the passing game. Not that he doesn't generate pressures or isn't effective, but I think the scheme that they had him in with the New England style defense did not lend itself to him getting the numbers he probably should have gotten. And I think we're probably going to see more of that this year, at which point the price tag is going to go up. And so maybe that's kind of what Wilkins was banking on. And he's thinking, I'm not going to sign this lower deal because I can make more in the new defense because I'm going to have better numbers. Now, if he comes out this year and has 5 sacks and 100 tackles, and it's kind of the same kind of stuff, then, I think the Dolphins will still pay him, and it'll be a little bit lower deal than what he's expecting. But if he comes out this year and has, 12 sacks or something ridiculous like that, then, yeah, he's probably going to be in that upper echelon. And at that point, you pay him anyway because he's earned it. So, I mean, as far as the way I feel about it is he is an integral part of the defense. He's probably the only player on the defense that you can put in any of the spots along the defensive line. Let's see if I can get him pulled up real quick. He's listed at 6'4", 310 pounds. He's probably a little bit heavier than that now. I mean, that's big enough to play the nose if you need someone to play the nose. So
he
can line up,
chase down running backs from behind somehow.
Yeah, so I mean, he can play anywhere from 0 to 5 tech across the defensive line, and that's very critical. And so it's good that he showed back up to practice, and he's going to give it his best this year. And obviously, that's for his benefit because, I mean, barring catastrophic injury, should put up numbers this year. So I think it's just one of those things that it will work itself out in the end. I know some people have mentioned, well, we could trade him for this or that, but you're not trading him this year. The goal this year is to win a Super Bowl. This is a team with a lot of expectations, and I don't care who it is for. You don't give up a player like that in a trade. At least not for draft picks. I mean, if you're packaging him to the Rams for Aaron Donald, that's one thing. But if you're, he's not going anywhere this year. So that'll be a conversation for next year. But I'm still optimistic that a deal will get done with him and that he will be on the team long term. I think it's just a matter of working out some numbers. And at this point, they're kind of putting that on the back burner. I don't think he's worried about it. Now, my understanding is, just from things that I've seen on television, is a lot of this is not actually dealt between the player and Chris Greer. Like Christian Wilkins is not sitting in his office and they're discussing these things. It's generally somebody calls the agent calls Chris, and back and forth. So why it can't be done during the season baffles me. To me, that's like well, they've offered this. How do you feel about this? And my response is going to be, let me think about it. I've thought about it. Yes or no. And then that's it. I don't think it would weigh a lot on my mind. So maybe they can work something out mid-season, but regardless, I think he gets done. He's too important of a piece to this defense for them to let him walk away. And obviously, there's the franchise tag option that they could put on him for next year and work out an additional year, so or something at that point. So there's more layers to this, but yeah, I think it's going to happen. So I'm not going to be overly concerned about it at this point.
I hope you're right, dude, because if Christian Wilkins ends up not being a Dolphin in a few years, like I understand the franchise tag is still an option. They're probably going to use it if they can't make a deal with this guaranteed money. But if they can't keep Christian Wilkins is probably one of the biggest hits that Chris Greer has ever hit on. Okay, and it's so weird because so many people were calling him a bust in the first couple of years because of the exact same reason. He wasn't getting the sacks. He just wasn't getting sacks. I'm like, your defensive tackle is not supposed to be your main sack getter. Even back at Clemson, Duke, even back at Clemson, he was the dude who would open up the way for everybody else to get sacks. The only reason Clelin Ferrell was a first-round draft pick might have been because of Christian Wilkins eating up the rest of the blocks. That's the honest truth about it. Because where is Clelin Ferrell now? I don't even know. Is he even on a team?
I think he's on a practice squad somewhere. I'm not entirely sure. I can look it up real quick.
He's with the San Francisco 49ers, apparently. I did not even know that's where he was right now.
Yeah, and I mean they need a little bit of depth, just because I don't know how the Nick Bosa thing is going, and I don't know if he's sitting out like Chris Jones. But again, it goes back to, and I can understand both sides of this. He was the 13th pick in the NFL draft. He's been a key leader on the team, an important part of your defense for those 4 years. But for a first round pick at that position, you want to see more sack production. And that's just, I mean, right or wrong, that's just how the league is. And so you know, I was a fan of, and his name is Jeffrey Simmons. And he had the ACL injury at the combine or before the combine. And then he went a few picks later to the Titans and has become a monster on their defensive line. But I mean, I think it was just the set of circumstances is he's in a defense that does not lend itself to a defensive tackle being a large stat getter, for lack of a better term. So I think we're going to see a little more of that this season. So I think the people who are saying, well, this guy's a bust is going to see more of what he can actually do. And
well, just to be clear,
those...
they're not. Just to be clear, Duke, they're not calling him a bust now. Obviously, he's not a bust. But back in this first couple of years, they were just looking at Christian Wilkins like he's not performing to the expectations that they had for him as a first round pick.
Well, and I think it's mainly just the sack numbers. I mean, let's be fair about it. I mean, a lot of people were expecting Jalen Phillips to break out this year. I think what is that? Good Morning Football had him as their number 2 player to break out this year. If he finishes the season with 9 sacks, I mean, that would be a disappointment, I think, for a lot of people. But I think the defense that we have is going to be set up in such a way that the front 4 are going to eat, and so I expect promising statistical numbers from those guys this year. And so I think all the worries about it will be put to rest.
All right, then. Thank you, Duke, for joining me. And for those of you who have not already done so, make sure you go to You Brake Wheel Fix. They can fix up your wheels if they need some fixing, or if you just want to give your ride an upgrade, the ultimate Dolphins makeover, they can do that for you too. 305-748-0112 is the number to call. And of course, you can go to prizepicks.com and use that promo code 5. That's FIVE. Make sure you're taking advantage of that Dak Prescott free square. All he has to do is throw for 1 yard, and you will automatically win on that. It's impossible that even if you don't like Dak Prescott, Prescott, put that in the blooper reel. Even if you don't like Dak Prescott, then he's still going to throw for at least 1 yard. So make sure you're going on to prizepicks.com. Use that promo code 5. That's going to be it for this show. See you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.